One greetings from the high 10. 7-Day Shenanigans. Thanks for joining me. Live number 2. I do believe I'll be back on for another live number 3. Something else I want to discuss with you guys pertaining to the Quentin Simon debacle. Something that crossed my mind, and I want to share it with you guys a little bit later. I will probably try to go live after this live, as not to hold you all up this evening. Thank you for joining me. This live is pertaining to Herschel Walker. He's a GOP Senate candidate, Republican, running for office down in Georgia. And a second woman has come forward to accuse him of paying for an abortion over 20, 30 years ago, actually. We're going to get into that said information. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for following the content. Like, share, subscribe. Please check out my library. I have a lot of content. Please follow the content. Amen. Thank you for joining me. Here we go.
So we are less than 2 weeks away from Election Day, and candidates are making their final push to voters. In Georgia, Republican Senate candidate Herschel Walker is facing new allegations that he paid for a second woman to get an abortion. It's a very tight race against incumbent Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock, and the outcome could help determine control of the Senate. So Nicole Killian is at the Capitol with the latest on this. Nicole, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Anne-Marie and Vlad. Herschel Walker is doubling down on this new claim, calling it foolishness, although the accuser insists this is not politically motivated and says she has proof.
I'm not going to stop. This seat is too important.
GOP Senate nominee Herschel Walker hit the airwaves Wednesday night, hours after a second accuser claimed he pressured her to get an abortion.
I'm done with this foolishness.
That's not a denial.
Attorney Gloria Allred represents the woman who she identified as Jane Doe.
He encouraged me to have an abortion and gave me the money to do so.
The woman described a 6-year relationship with Walker while he was married and playing in the NFL.
Wow.
She says that in April 1993, she found out she was pregnant and told Walker she couldn't go through with the abortion.
He was upset and said that he was going to go back with me to the clinic the next day for me to have the abortion.
While her lawyer did not present receipts from the clinic, she did provide what she claimed was other evidence of the relationship, from a photo to handwritten cards and a recorded message purportedly from Walker.
I want to say I love you and I was thinking about you.
The woman said she decided to come forward due to Walker's anti-abortion rights stance.
I believe in life.
And following other allegations by another woman that he paid for her abortion in 2009.
Herschel Walker is a hypocrite, and he is not fit to be a U.S. Senator.
What I'm saying is this is a lie, and I've said it once, and I've moved on my campaign.
This stuff needs to stop. You're trying to ruin people's lives.
On the campaign trail, many of Walker's supporters seemed unfazed, although a new poll found Walker with a 52% unfavorable rating among Georgia voters, a number that's gone up since last month.
I think what he stands for is the truth. Everybody has done bad things in their life. I mean, even me, and I'm pretty darn good.
Now, that woman told us that she has already voted for Herschel Walker. In fact, more than 1 million people have cast ballots in early voting in Georgia, shattering records. Walker's Democratic opponent, Senator Raphael Warnock, said these latest allegations are part of a troubling pattern. Anne-Marie, Vlad?
So, Nicole, you just brought up something that I was thinking. There's been a tremendous amount of early voting in Georgia, as you point out, breaking records. So you got to wonder if this latest round of, allegations, if it's even going to have an impact on Walker's chances.
Yeah, well, it always remains to be seen. It remains to be seen what additional details may come out in the coming days now that this woman has come forward. But that being said, some of this at this point is baked in, whether that is people who have already cast their ballots or in the case of people who support Herschel Walker, even after that first set of allegations from his ex-girlfriend that he paid for an abortion for her. When we talked to voters after that story broke, most of them told us, while they may not like it, it's not necessarily going to change their vote or their view. Others, were very forgiving of the situation, saying, well, that was in the past. And, people, have the bad things that have happened in their lives and they move on. So there has been a lot of leeway that Herschel Walker has been given in terms of these allegations. Again, whether or not that continues remains to be seen. I will note that on the campaign trail, though, in the last couple of weeks, we have seen the messages really sharpening between the candidates on this issue of credibility and truthfulness. And Senator Warnock, who again issued that statement, has cut some ads based on that first set of abortion allegations. So we'll see, if those are used, if, Democrats or groups supporting Warnock decide to, do something with these latest allegations. But either way, Herschel Walker has made clear he's trying to turn the page and move forward as we get to Election Day.
Let's turn to the Senate race in Pennsylvania, Nicole. As you know, Democratic candidate Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman's debate performance this week is raising some concerns about the party's chances of taking the seat. How's the candidate responding?
Well, he did this big event last night, and he drew a crowd of more than 3,000 people. He was with Dave Matthews in Pittsburgh, and, he acknowledged, look, this debate was hard. It wasn't easy for me, and I may have missed a couple of words. In fact, he went on to say he doesn't think something like this has been done in modern political history. So he is trying to...
I'm going to stop it there because I think they're going into content pertaining to somebody else. That was CBS. Let's go to 11 Alive. This is an allegation that he paid and drove her to the clinic to get the abortion. Ooh, Lordy have mercy. What a mess. Thank you for joining me, everybody. This is, as I said, News 11 Alive.
In April of 1993, I learned that I was pregnant. I was surprised.
Let me play that back so you all can hear that.
In April of 1993, I learned that I was pregnant. I was surprised because I had been on birth control during my entire relationship with Herschel. I was certain that I was pregnant as a result of my relationship with Herschel, and because I was not intimate with anyone else at the time. I really didn't know what to do. I was confused, uncertain, and scared. After discussing the pregnancy with Herschel several times, he encouraged me to have an abortion and gave me the money to do so.
Well, interesting. Miss Allred is the one sitting in here playing this audio from the said woman. How do I feel about that? 11 Alive is the source. I'm going to play one more commentary, and then I'm going to get into my commentary of this situation pertaining to Herschel Walker. Herschel Walker responds to second woman's claims he paid for an abortion. Fox 5 Atlanta is the source, uploaded 7 hours ago. Thank you all so much for joining me.
Is because he has publicly taken the position that he is, and the reason I am here today is because he has publicly taken the position that he is, quote, about life, unquote, and against abortion under any circumstances, when in fact, he pressured me to have an abortion and personally ensured that it occurred by driving me to the clinic and paying for it.
Another explosive allegation against GOP Senate candidate Herschel Walker. Today, a second woman came forward saying Walker paid for her to have an abortion. New tonight, Walker is responding to the claim.
Fox 5 anchor Christine Spiro joins us from the live desk with the latest developments on this. Christine?
The woman, who was identified as Jane Doe by her attorney, Gloria Allred, claims Walker pressured her to get an abortion after she learned she was pregnant in April of 1993 while in Dallas, Texas. Tonight, Walker addressed the claims on Special Report with Brett Baer. Take a listen.
Well, that's a lie, and I've said that's a lie, and I hope people can see right now that Raphael Warnock and the left would do whatever they can to win this seat fight. but I don't think they realize that they messed with the wrong Georgia in here.
You're saying you don't know this person?
What I'm saying is this is a lie. And I've said it once, and I've moved on. My campaign and moved on because we're worried about what the Georgia people are talking about.
Again, this allegation coming on the heels of allegations made by another woman just weeks ago. She says she is the mother of Walker's children and said he paid for her abortion while they were dating back in 2009. Now, in addition to his response on Bret Baier tonight, when asked about the new allegation during a campaign stop today, Walker said, quote, "I'm done with this foolishness. I've already told people this is a lie, and I'm not going to continue to carry a lie along," end quote. Russ?
All right, Christine, thanks. Bret Baier broadcasting his show live from Georgia tonight. Fox 5 News anchor Tom Haynes spoke with him about the major role our state plays in this year's midterm. That story coming up, all new tonight on News Edge at 11.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me and following the content. Fox 5 Atlanta is the source. The Queen will now give her commentary on the allegations. Just a little while ago, a female came forward saying, victim number one, if you want to consider her a victim, a little female, Jane Doe 1, said he paid for an abortion and then asked her, I think, to have another one. So at first, Mr. Walker denied having knowledge thereof, blah, blah, blah. Then he later just recently said, yes, he did write her a check for $700, but did not know what it was for. Okay, so now he's acknowledging the $700 check, but naturally no one's going to put on a check for abortion, common sense. So I brought you a source saying the news checked into the check, verified the check, and also the receipt from the abortion clinic. But the abortion clinic's receipt does not match the $700. So the abortion she had at the clinic was obviously either more than $700 or less than $700. Use your imagination. And then you have to ask yourselves, how far along was she when she had the abortion? If she was near full term in 2009, I can't say how much it would have been because I know that Atlanta is the place that you would go 20, 30 years ago if you were near full term about it. You understand what I'm saying? Always a hater in the group. Anyway, the point is, why did you come forward? Now, one could say, well, it's a moral issue. He's talking about abortion, blah, blah, blah. He paid for me one. He's saying he's against it. But the flip side of that is that his wife was the go-to for Jane Doe number 1. They talked, they mediated because he has a child with this certain female. And she seemed to be congratulating him on running for the Senate, blah, blah, blah. So one could say, you didn't know that he was against abortions when he decided to run for office. You can weigh the story however you choose. One could say, well, maybe back then he was for abortions. Maybe he's not. There are issues of him having, obviously, women trouble, kid trouble, because he has children out of wedlock that he's not married to the wives. So one could say, well, you're not really a conservative person because why would you be out here making children unprotected and not marrying any of the mothers? Because that's not conducive to the Republican Party and conservative living. I think most of us know that. So we'll ask Mr. Herschel Walker, do you think you're a good representation for the Conservative Party, considering most conservatives are pro-family, pro-marriage? Okay? It's not to say a person can't change their mind, because I don't know him personally to say how he thinks and doesn't think, but we're going to go on perception and how you've been living. The life you've been living the past 30 to 20 years is of a single man. A single man out here meeting and greeting women, having sex with them unprotected, and they popping up pregnant. So now we have two women saying they got an abortion. The second one is saying she was pressured by you, coerced by you. Okay? As I said, this whole situation is about perception. So we have a man who denied it in the beginning, Jane Doe 1. Now he's acknowledged the check, but says he didn't know what the check was about. He did have issues with the mother, or currently has issues with the mother as far as navigating with their children, because his wife has been the go-to with Jane Doe number 1, which shows me that's a bad sign that he can't even talk to the mother of his child. Why not? Now we have Jane Doe number 2 coming forward, who said she had an abortion in 93, was having an affair with him while he was married. She was using birth control, did not have another partner, confused, scared, discussed it with him, and he encouraged her to get the abortion. He allegedly drove her to the clinic and paid for it. If the child had lived, the child would be 28 years of age. So what I'd like to know with this Jane Doe number 2, as I would Jane Doe number 1, how far along were you ladies in your pregnancy when you had the abortions? Jane Doe number 2, we're going to talk about you right now because you're the one with the attorney, Miss Allred, which I don't understand the purposes for having Miss Allred as an attorney. You're not being sued. There are no allegations brought against you by an outside party. So why do you need a lawyer? You would only get a lawyer if you know somebody's going to clap back and possibly sue you for defamation. Because starting out revealing something about another person, people are going to judge you. Some may be on your side, some may not. 2, why have a lawyer? You're the one bringing forth the allegations. He didn't rape you. He didn't sodomize you. So why do you need Miss Allred to represent you? And most people may think that Miss Allred at this point is you get my drift. She's seeking an opportunity to be seen, to be validated. And Miss Allred, I'm going to question your judgment too in this case. Why are you representing her? Come on now. I don't really care what Herschel Walker did years ago because it's none of my business. I'm just a commentary channel bringing you breaking news. Since if that's a problem for some of you, you don't have to listen to the content. Therefore, but it is breaking news because he's running for the Senate. And the side that he's on is pro-family, pro-life. But that's not to say that deep down inside, he's really for abortions. So are we talking a man that's really for abortions, but he's riding the Republican ticket, so he's just going to ride the ride of his team? And I think that happens with many people because there are lots of things I don't agree with as a liberal. And some people would find it confusing, but that's the point. You're entitled to your opinion on different subject matters. I don't have to agree with every liberal, every Democrat, because you're entitled to think what you want. Frankly, I have a lot of conservative views about family altogether. Okay? But the point is, I'm a human being, I'm flawed, and so are other people. So what is the issue with Herschel Walker? How many women has he paid for an abortions with? How about that? How many abortions has he paid for? How many abortions have been done that he didn't pay for? Why weren't any of you all using protection? Because I'm seeing a pattern with Mr. Herschel that I see with a lot of men in general, black and white. They don't like to use condoms. So they're banking that the woman will be the one to use protection. But you can't bank on that if you don't want children. So I'm going to say this to Mr. Walker. You knew at that time when you were out there sleeping around in the street, single and or married, that there was a chance that a woman could get pregnant. And the worst part of this story is that you were married, because the lady says you were married. I'm going to go on a limb and agree with her. You were married. So why were you, 1, out here in the street picking up strange kitty cat? 2, sleeping without a condom? Even if the woman was on birth control, you still weren't using a condom. And I'm sure you're not going to double back and tell us, oh, yeah, I was. Yeah, it's nonsense because your business is being put on Front Street. So now we have to ask these women, what are you trying to gain by outing this man? We're going to flip the coin both ways. We're going to flip it both ways. Each are saying, well, he says he's pro life, but we've got abortions on behalf of him, so he's a liar. So is Mr. Walker really for abortions, but just pretending that he cares about life? Which is it? Where I have the problem, I guess, would be perception. One, you're putting your business in the street of something that happened a long time ago. Is this issue of that importance to you that you need to, one, out yourself and out Mr. Walker? Naturally, the women's names have not been used, but once a person gets to talking to you, the news entity, it would only be a matter of time before your name will somehow make it into the media. And are you ready for your name to be revealed? Because you're saying, well, I'm doing this because he's claiming that he's pro-life and people need to know that he's paid for an abortion, abortions. But one is going to say, hey, what do I care that he paid for abortions? And then you're going to say, well, he says he's pro-life. You should care. But then we also know that people are hypocritical. People lie. People manipulate. And Herschel Walker is coming across as a person who was free with his penis. He liked sex, and he liked unprotected sex, and he liked sleeping with different women. So we also have to say, shit, you know, you were taking the chance also of spreading and catching diseases to bringing them back to your wife, and also HIV/AIDS. So see, it really goes a little deeper than just the abortion, if you want to be technical about it. And since Pandora's box is now open, you know the queen will take you there. Has any of these women and Mr. Walker ever caught a venereal disease? Bingo card. Since nobody wants to identify themselves and put Mr. Walker on Front Street, have any of you women had a venereal disease? Have any of you passed the venereal disease to Mr. Walker? Or has he passed the venereal disease to one of you all? See, how about that? Now, who's going to tell that part? Since we're in the outing business, you want to go put the man on Front Street, but are you also willing to tell if you caught a venereal disease, such as syphilis, gonorrhea, herpes, trichomonas? Would you be willing to go that far? You don't want to tell us your name. But as I said, it's only a matter of time. Somebody's going to slip that name out and slip it out, shit, probably for spite. You don't know. Mr. Walker, why are you sleeping with these women? Or was sleeping with these women? Because I don't know if you're still messing around. I know that you're married now. I know old habits also die hard because you obviously like kitty cat. So one could say, are you still the type of man that likes to put his penis in vaginas that don't belong to him? Are you still being offered kitty cat? Just asking. Because as I said, old habits die hard. You probably can still perform sexually. You probably still desire sex, affection. You still might like a little strange every now and again. So Queen just wants to know, are you still sleeping around? Because if you're still sleeping around, you're liable to get somebody else pregnant. And she'll be crying that you forced her to get an abortion. So my issues right now is how many women are there? And how many more are going to come out? And why did this Jane Doe 2 go get Miss Allred as a lawyer? Because I don't see the purpose in getting Miss Allred. It's not like you're being sued. So what do you need representation for? You didn't give your name legally. So what's the purpose in having a lawyer? So that makes people think you're just in this for attention and to gain something. But what can you gain from a 30-year abortion? So see, this all makes it look like you're just doing this for attention. Because somebody's going to say, well, get over it. It's over with. It's done. You did it. You're stupid to went through with it. He didn't force you. And that's my other issue. Herschel Walker couldn't have forced you to do anything. Bingo card. It was a choice to have sex with him. It was a choice to mess around with a married man. It was a choice not to ask him to use a condom. It was a choice to have your baby. Or have an abortion because Jane Doe number 1 had an abortion and then had a kid. So all were choices: abortion and delivery of a baby. All were choices. And if you are sleeping with a married man, you know the consequences of sleeping with him. 9 times out of 10, you will not be number 1. He will not leave the wife to marry you. And 9 times out of 10, he will not want a child. Why would he want a child with you and he's married and possibly has children with the wife? Now, how many times has Herschel Walker been married? I do not know. I didn't plan on doing a deep dive into this mess because I just saw the notification for woman number 2. Some will say, well, this is his personal life, his personal business, whether he's a Republican or not, whether Republicans believe in pro-life, so what? As the one lady you heard talking, she's a Caucasian lady. She said she voted for him. She's had a past, but she feels like she's a good person. A lot of people have committed sins. True. Flawed. True. But she thinks what he stands for is the truth. See, everything's about perception. Now, another Republican may have a problem with Herschel Walker. He's not a good fit. He's not a good representation for our party. We need people who are really pro-life, stand on what they say, live by the sword. But we also know that, as I told somebody in the comment section, most of the people that we voted for are flawed. They've sinned, they've fornicated, they've lied, they've cheated, they've defrauded, they've manipulated. They just haven't told you about it. And they haven't been caught. And some have been caught. And if you believe in the scripture, God tells you not to put your faith in man because you will surely be disappointed. That's why you can't get upset when you hear somebody you voted for had an affair, cheated on their taxes, never paid their taxes. Hell, some people voted for Trump and he's never paid taxes. I would find that atrocious behavior. Walking around, living high off the hog and haven't paid a due bill. But somebody was okay with that and voted for him and still wants him back in office. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's about your perception. But I don't think it was right for this lady to go get the lawyer. I'm still on the fence about her coming forward to say, well, he's a hypocrite. He's not pro-life. What I'm saying is it worth outing him and worth the risk of people finding out your name? That's it. Because remaining anonymous today is very risque. At some point, your name is going to be leaked to the press. And then people will know you had an abortion. And if you never wanted anybody to know you had an abortion, such as your family, kids, don't know if you have children now, don't know if you're married now, that's going to come out. So is it worth the risk of being known? Because it's easy to say, well, Herschel Walker's a hypocrite. He says he's pro-life. He's riding this Republican ticket. He's not really a pro-lifer. What's the fallout? Is it worth being found out? That's my question. Whether you think he's a hypocrite or not. Is it worth everybody knowing you've had an abortion by Herschel Walker? Jane Doe number 1 and Jane Doe number 2. And naturally, the wife knows Jane Doe number 1 because they talk to each other, because the wife is a mediator for the child that Herschel has with Jane Doe number 1. And obviously they had a good rapport. So I commend his wife for being a mediator with this Jane Doe number 1 who has a child by Herschel Walker. And I question what's the problem with this relationship, because you ought to want to be able to talk to the mother of your children. She is the mother. Something happens to your wife you have now, how are you going to navigate with Jane Doe number one? Something happens to your kids. So see, this is childish and petty. And as I said, Herschel Walker may be just that black man that just didn't give a damn, still don't give a damn, likes sex with different women, don't like using a condom, but he's a Republican. Point blank. So now we can ask Mr. Walker, when did you become a Republican? How about that? Were you always a Republican? Are you truly a Republican? Or you just jumped on a ticket that you thought would get you votes? I don't know, because I don't know him. I just asked these questions because it's an interesting story. And when I heard the woman had got a lawyer, that just really kind of threw me off. Like, okay, are you in this because you want the truth to be known about Mr. Walker, or you have a hidden agenda? The fact that she kept cards and pictures of Mr. Walker, that's interesting. Now, I know that many women are pack rats, hoarders. They like to keep mementos from childhood, college, young life, blah, blah, blah. So when I heard that this lady has kept a photograph of Mr. Walker, you can see the picture in the news clip where Mr. Walker looks like he was lying across a bed. I don't know, it kind of rubbed me funky. Like, you kept that picture? Was it that important? Was it worth keeping? The cards he sent you, was it worth keeping 30 or more years later? I guess where I'm going with this is all of this important 30 years later? The keeping of the pictures, the cards, now bringing allegations that he paid for an abortion, drove you to the clinic and paid for it. So now people are going to ask, well, where's the receipt? Because if you're willing to keep pictures and cards that he sent you 30 years ago, you must have kept a receipt to the abortion clinic. And even then, you've got to prove that he paid for it. Because if he gave you cash, you can't prove it. It doesn't matter. Yes, Jessica, sounds like she was obsessed. That's what I'm saying. So that's how people are possibly going to look at you. 30 years later, you still got cards and pictures? Why? I'm just asking. And like I said, I know a lot of women don't throw away things. Keep tickets to the concert from 30 years ago, high school prom pictures and tickets to concerts at 15. I don't have none of that kind of stuff. I don't have any tickets to when I went to a concert or never went to a concert as a teenager. I was a big fan of Prince for about a year, and then, hell, a year later, I moved on. Do you see where I'm going? So I'm going to ask Jane Doe number 2. Are you obsessed with Herschel Walker? Are you still holding a torch for him? Or are you just one of those type of people that keeps mementos? I don't know. Yes. And that's another thing that people are also going to question as well. You're keeping mementos from 30 years ago or more. You're bringing allegations that he paid for an abortion and drove you. You've got pictures and cards. But he was also a married man. And a lot of people don't condone adultery. So are you willing to be outed for not only having an abortion, because some people may feel that's a sin, it's considered murder in the eyes of some. You also sleeping with a married man. And you seem like you're so disgusted with him in that audio clip that Allred played. So what is it that you're so disgusted about pertaining to Herschel Walker? You disgusted that you never got to be the wife? He didn't choose you? He didn't want a baby with you? He didn't want you? All of the above. Check a box. Because some may look at it as you are still pining over a married man, upset over a married man. And I got a feeling that the woman he's married to now is not the lady he was married to when you were messing with him. If I'm incorrect, I'll correct it in the bottom of the comments. But the fact that he's had different baby mothers, not married any of those baby mothers, doesn't even deal with one of the baby mothers, Jane Doe number 1, who's bringing forth allegations of an abortion, it goes to show character of Mr. Walker. And whether he's Democrat or Republican, it shows he's been frivolous with his body. And that's his choice. And you knew these risks when you were messing with him, whether he was married or single. And when you deal with people, you can get a feeling if they want to be a father or mother or not. And I got a feeling you knew that Herschel Walker didn't want any kids, because you could just use deduction. Why would he want a child with you and he's a married man? Possibly already had children then. And he's had children 10 or so years ago, because Jane Doe number 1 got pregnant in 2009, just a little 13 years ago. So he was still having sex. Now, I don't know if he was married when he was slumbering around with Jane Doe number 1. My understanding, they were in a relationship. You claim that you were in a relationship, Jane Doe number 2. But you couldn't have been in a relationship because you admitted that he was married. So therefore, people are not going to say you were in a relationship. You were slumbering around with a married man. And you knew the repercussions for sleeping with him unprotected and him being married. We're all flawed and make mistakes. But some might say you coming forward now is really out of vengeance, and not that he's on the GOP ticket and allegedly a pro-lifer. So what is the truth between you and Jane Doe number 1? Do you all really care that he's an alleged pro-lifer? Or are you only coming forward to throw gasoline on Mr. Herschel Walker? That's the point. Now, many people don't care about the story. Many people don't care about any story. Let's just keep it real. But it's breaking news, and I brought you the content because I found it interesting that he was running for the Senate, and Jane Doe number 1 came out, and now we have a Jane Doe number 2. But as I said, you're entitled to your opinion of Mr. Walker. You're entitled to your opinion of these women. I don't know any of them. But from my perception, Mr. Walker enjoyed sex. And he also didn't want to marry anybody. And he also didn't want no damn babies. So I think as an outsider, if I can assess those 3 things about Mr. Walker, you definitely, as somebody dealing with him, should have assessed those things. But we as women tend to be weak when it comes to dealing with men, be them single or married. We want them, we desire them, and we will do whatever we can to try to keep them. And some women would get pregnant on purpose, lie that they're on birth control to try to keep a man in the snare, in her snare. Sometimes it works, sometimes it does not. But I think Mr. Walker has shown these women that he's dated that what he says goes. I don't want the kid, I'll pay for the abortion. You either like it or you don't. You either ride the ride or you don't. And when I'm done with you, I'm done with you. That's the gist of the story. So I'm going to ask this question before I check out of here. Will there be another Jane Doe? And I'm not going to say For his sake, I hope not, because who's to say maybe this is the universe getting payback for something Herschel Walker has done. I don't know. As I said, everything's about perception. But Mr. Walker, I'm going to say this. You better hope nobody else comes out saying they had a baby and or you paid for an abortion. Because you trying to become a senator, so you obviously have goals. And you're entitled to want whatever you desire. It's not for me to say what you deserve or don't deserve because I don't know you. But one thing I'm going to say, if you are still the type of man that likes strange kitty cats, your best bet is to wear a condom. And you need to put on 2 condoms, because if you are still sexually active outside of your marriage, this can happen again. And what will be worse than what is already out in the media now, while you're running for office, trying to get voted in, somebody pops up and says they're damn pregnant. Okay? Somebody else says they're pregnant. Somebody else comes forward, Jane Doe number 3 comes forward saying she had an abortion, or God forbid, a love child that you don't know nothing about. Well, he may be immature, but that's why I said the story depends on your perception of Mr. Walker. I think he was like a lot of men. He was just living in the moment. He didn't care about anybody's feelings. He didn't care about anybody getting pregnant. He dealt with the situation when it arose. His solution to the problem was, hey, okay, you're pregnant. Okay, I don't want it. Here's the money. Go get an abortion. I don't want the child. And naturally, that would hurt anyone's feelings who wants to keep the child. But in the end, it is your choice to have the abortion. That has nothing to do with Herschel Walker. And none of you can sit here today in front of sane people and say he coerced you into getting an abortion. You may have felt pressured, but in the end, it was your choice. And we all have to own our choices, because some of us have felt pressured into doing things, signing for things. We had reservations about it, but in the end, we made the sound decision to go forward. And that's what I see here. Because Herschel Walker would be the same person, whether he was a Republican or a Democrat, or neither. He still would be the same man who enjoyed sex with strange women outside of marriage. He would be the same man who would ask the woman to get an abortion if and when she became pregnant. And that has nothing to do with being a Republican or a Democrat. That's just who Herschel Walker is. Has he changed? I do not know. It's only an issue because he's running for Senate. And that is where the perception comes in. Are you only doing this because he's now being recognized for running for a political office? Where were you when he was not running for the Senate? Are you only doing this to out him because he's trying to get into office? And how will you be perceived by others once your name gets out into the media? Will it be worth it in outing Herschel Walker? That's the point. Is it worth it? Are you trying to be vindicated? Do you feel Herschel Walker owes you something? Do you feel slighted by Herschel Walker? Are you still in your feelings because he didn't want a child with you. And some might say that is part of the problem, that Herschel Walker didn't want a child with neither one of you. And I think you know that. That's why he asked you to get the abortion. And possibly now, 20 years, 15 years, 30 years later, each of you are in your feelings. Because Jane Doe number one, that's 13 years ago. And you obviously decided to come forward even after you've congratulated the man on running for office. So that's why his wife was wondering why you're doing this. Jane Doe number two, you're spinning a 30-year-old story. Why haven't you told the public before you felt some type of way about getting an abortion 30 years ago? But that's the point, isn't it? It wasn't relevant 30 years ago. It's only relevant because he's running for political office and claiming to be a pro-life candidate. If you'd like to donate to this great channel, $ Big Angie, 129 Cash App. This is a very interesting story, I must say. And it just goes to show you that there's no such thing as having secrets about anything that you do, the people that you meet, the relationships that you have with people. There's always going to be somebody that will have a tale to spin about you. And that's the thing about a secret. It's not a secret if somebody tells it. So now what was between two people, it's now national news. Isn't that interesting? So now we sit in limbo wondering who's going to come forward now and say, oh yeah, by the way, he forced me to get an abortion. What a mess. And like I said, is this payback for him? Did he hurt some hearts along the way? And this is their way of getting back at him since he's decided to run for public office? I don't know. But I know that there's no such thing as hiding things. Eventually, whatever you've done in your past, it's going to come out. Whether you didn't think it was no big deal, sometimes it finds its way to the media. And that's what's happening now. But I will say this, then I'll check out of here. Jane Doe number two. I have a problem with you because I don't understand why you hired Miss Allred. That to me makes no sense. You're the one spinning the tale about Mr. Walker because we know all in all, he would have no reason to ever utter your damn name. Because one, he's married. Two, I doubt that you all have any type of relationship or dealing with each other. So he has no reason to mention you in conversation. So why did you hire an attorney? For what reason? Because you're not being sued. So why do you need Allred to represent you? So are you planning on bringing some type of suit against Mr. Walker? I'm confused. And if so, what would be the point? Maybe you should have rethought this. Or maybe you feel like, well, I'm a right fighter. People need to know what kind of person he is before voting for him. But as you heard, a white woman has voted for him, and she stands on her vote. She says, I once did things too, but I'm a good person now. Or I'm a good person, rather. And that's the truth. People are flawed, and they do make mistakes, and they lie. And a lot of times we lie to hang in with certain groups of people. And perhaps Mr. Walker doesn't care if you go get an abortion. But right now, he's running as a Republican, and Republicans stand for pro-life. So perhaps he's just riding the ticket. And as he said in the commentary I played, I'm not putting up this nonsense, so he's done with it. Ms. already said, well, that's not an answer. Of course it's not an answer, because he's already been accused by Jane Doe number 1. He's not getting ready to go down the rabbit hole with Jane Doe number 2, because he's already had to back his way out the hole on Jane Doe number 1 by acknowledging that was his signature and that was his check. But he was clever enough to say, yeah, okay, that's my check. I write checks all the time, but I don't know what it was for. I give people money all the time. Checkmate. Exactly. Prove I gave her $700 for an abortion. And she can. Because the clinic's receipt shows a different amount. So now you see why sometimes it's best to let things ride. Because somewhere in a bunch of politicians, human beings, we're all hypocrites. We all judge people on things that we know we've done ourselves, aided people in doing things that we criticize. We're all guilty of some sin of sort. All I'm saying, is it worth revealing yourself and people knowing that you've had an abortion if really you don't want people to know? Because I feel if you really wanted people to know that you had an abortion, you would reveal yourself the first time you brought the claim against Herschel Walker. And Jane Doe number 1, you have a child with him, and you don't have a good relationship with Herschel Walker. So some may say you're doing this out of spite. Same thing with Jane Doe number 2. Thank you all so very much for following the content. Please check out my library. I will put a poll up about Herschel Walker when I get off this live. And please go to my community page for the polls pertaining to the Quentin Simon case. I will be back on in a few minutes. I have a short live I want to do. There's a question I'd like to pose to the viewing audience pertaining to the information that's been relayed allegedly about the baby. Just a little bit of tea I want to spin to the viewing audience. If you see something, say something. Be a part of the solution and not the problem. Mind the children. Thank you all so much. God bless all of you. This is Everyday Shenanigans.